sometimes, love doesn't destroy you all at once. It breaks you quietly, piece by piece, until you can't remember who you were before it began. Tonight, we step into a story of beauty and betrayal, of a woman who believed she had finally found peace, only to uncover 3 secrets that shattered everything she knew. Under the golden lights of a perfect night, Eva discovered that the man she loved, Izaiah Hawthorne, was not who he seemed. Behind his gentle smile lay a past woven with deceit, tragedy, and blood. This isn't a story about love. It's a story about what happens after the illusion fades, when the truth becomes the weapon that destroys everything in its path. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will change the way you think about trust, love, and the darkness people hide behind their charm. The night was made for beauty. Strings of golden lights wove through the branches, casting a warm, trembling glow over the garden. Music floated in the air, mingled with laughter and the scent of white roses. Eva had never seen anything like it, not even in her dreams. She stood near the fountain, a glass of champagne in her hand, watching reflections of dancing silhouettes flicker across the water's surface. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to believe that she could start over. Izaiah had been the embodiment of everything she thought she wanted. A man of charm and quiet confidence, whose voice carried both power and gentleness. They had met by accident, or what she thought was one. His car had broken down outside the art gallery where she worked late one evening. He had seemed so disarmingly polite, so perfectly aligned with the life she had imagined for herself, a life of peace, love, and stability after years of chaos. But beneath the perfection of that night, something else was brewing. The air felt too still, the lights too bright, the laughter too carefully orchestrated. Eva could feel it in her bones, the kind of silence that follows before the storm breaks. The first truth came quietly. As she wandered toward the terrace, she saw a group of guests huddled together, whispering over a tablet. Curiosity drew her closer. On the screen was a headline, "Financial Scandal Linked to Hawthorne Foundation." The image showed Izaiah beside a councilman, both smiling, shaking hands at a charity event. The caption spoke of embezzlement, fraudulent contracts, and missing funds from community projects. Eva's heart clenched. It couldn't be him. Yet as she scrolled through the article, her breath faltered. The foundation's name was real, and so were the dates. The man she thought she knew, the generous benefactor, the calm and moral figure, had allegedly built his empire on deception. Still, she told herself there must be an explanation. Maybe it was all a misunderstanding, a smear campaign by rivals. She needed to find him, to look into his eyes and know the truth. But before she could take a step, a voice behind her whispered her name, softly, as if warning her. It was Celeste, her oldest friend, her confidant in every secret. Her face was pale, eyes trembling with something deeper than fear. She handed Eva a small envelope. Inside was a photo, faded at the edges. It was Eva's sister, Leah, smiling in a hospital bed, with Izaiah sitting beside her, holding her hand. The second truth crashed through her like glass. Leah had died 3 years ago in a car accident that still haunted Eva's nights. But the idea that Izaiah had once been there, that he had known Leah and never told her, shattered something sacred inside her. How long had he been hiding this? What did it mean? Memories came flooding back, the way he sometimes looked at her with a strange, lingering sorrow, the way he avoided questions about his past. It wasn't coincidence. It was a circle closing in. The air thickened as the music shifted, slower now, almost mournful. Eva's fingers trembled as she walked toward the garden's edge. Her eyes searched for Izaiah among the crowd, that familiar silhouette, the dark suit, the unshakable poise. When she finally found him, he was standing beneath the archway of lights, speaking to a woman she didn't recognize. And that was when the third truth revealed itself. The woman turned. Her features mirrored Eva's own, not in exactness, but in essence. A similar smile, the same eyes. The resemblance was haunting. And then she heard someone nearby whisper the woman's name, Mariel. Mariel Hawthorne. Izaiah's wife. The glass fell from Eva's hand. Everything blurred, the music, the voices, the gold lights that once shimmered with romance now stung her eyes. She felt herself slipping out of the moment, like reality itself had fractured beneath her feet. Every truth she had built her heart upon dissolved, leaving her suspended between disbelief and horror. The night that had promised love had instead unmasked betrayal, not once, but 3 times over. As the guests laughed and danced, Eva walked away, unnoticed, her heart pounding like a drum that could no longer find its rhythm. Somewhere behind her, Izaiah's laughter rang out, smooth, familiar, and now, unbearably hollow. The rain began to fall, washing away the shimmer of the night. The night after the party lingered in Eva's memory like smoke, thick, suffocating, impossible to escape. The lights, the laughter, the taste of champagne, all had turned into ghosts that haunted every thought. She sat on the floor of her apartment, the photo of Leah still clutched in her trembling hands. Every heartbeat felt like punishment. Outside, the city hummed with the same indifference it always had. Cars passed, sirens cried, people laughed. Life moved forward while hers had stopped. She stared at her reflection in the dark window, a stranger staring back with hollow eyes, makeup smeared, hair undone. Somewhere deep inside, a small part of her still wanted to believe that it was all a mistake, that Izaiah would come for her, explain everything, undo the pain. But the silence was its own answer. Days passed in fragments. Eva wandered through them as if sleepwalking. She stopped showing up at work. Her friends' messages went unanswered. Even Celeste, who tried to call, was met with silence. The world that had once felt stable and full of promise had crumbled, leaving her stranded among the ruins of what she thought was love. She tried to piece it together, the lies, the timing, the way fate had twisted around her. Had Izaiah known who she was all along? Had he sought her out because of Leah? The thought made her stomach twist. Perhaps she had been a replacement, a living echo of the sister he had lost. In her mind, the past and present began to blur. She remembered Leah's funeral, the unanswered questions, the sense that something about the accident had never quite made sense. And now, Izaiah's face kept appearing in those memories like an intruder, there, beside Leah's hospital bed, his hand over hers. Eva began to dig. At first, it was just curiosity, a need for closure. She searched through old medical records, online archives, social media posts. But the deeper she went, the more she uncovered, and the more the ground beneath her gave way. There were transfers of money, large, untraceable deposits into Leah's account months before the accident. There were deleted photos, fragments of messages that hinted at an affair, or something worse. Leah had once written in her journal that she felt followed by guilt. Eva found that line circled 3 times in ink. And then there was a police report. An unfiled, incomplete document that mentioned Izaiah Hawthorne as a person of interest in an unsolved hit-and-run case from the same night Leah had died. Eva could no longer breathe. The man who had kissed her hands, whispered promises, and held her through her fears had been the shadow at the edge of her sister's death. Her mind began to fracture. Nights bled into mornings. She stopped eating, stopped sleeping. The walls of her apartment seemed to move, to close in, to whisper her sister's name. Every time she tried to think clearly, the memory of Izaiah's eyes, calm, knowing, deceitful, consumed her again. She started following him. Not openly, but from the shadows. She watched from across the street as he left his office, his arm casually around Mariel's waist, his laughter effortless. He looked like a man untouched by guilt. His world had continued to turn while hers had collapsed into dust. There was a day she followed him to the cemetery. He laid flowers on a grave, but not Leah's. It was an unmarked stone. She waited until he left, then approached. The name carved faintly into the marble made her knees give out. It was his child's. A daughter. Gone before birth. Eva felt the world tilt. Leah had once told her she couldn't have children. But what if that wasn't true? What if Leah's death had been part of something darker, a secret buried beneath layers of lies and guilt? By then, reason no longer mattered. Eva's obsession grew into something raw and uncontrollable. She began to write letters, to him, to Leah, to herself. Pages of confessions, rage, despair. The apartment filled with them, scattered like fallen leaves. She no longer cared about consequences. Her love had become a cage, her grief, the lock. One evening, she stood by the river where Leah's car had been found. The water shimmered beneath the moonlight, calm and deceitful, much like Izaiah's eyes. She imagined him standing there, watching the car sink, feeling nothing. She imagined Leah calling out for help. The image became too vivid to bear. Eva stepped closer to the edge, the cold wind biting against her skin. Her heart pounded not with fear, but with release. The weight of betrayal, the endless cycle of searching for truth, had finally broken her. But before she could move, headlights flashed behind her. A car door slammed. Footsteps. She turned. It was Izaiah. He looked the same, immaculate, composed, unreadable. His eyes held that same tragic calm that had once drawn her in. For a brief moment, she almost reached for him, almost believed he might save her. But then she remembered the photo, the report, the grave. And she realized he hadn't come to save her. He had come to end what he started. The river roared beneath the bridge, louder now, swallowing the night. No one would ever know who screamed first. By morning, the police found only one set of footprints leading to the edge and none returning. The following week, news outlets reported that Izaiah Hawthorne had disappeared under mysterious circumstances. His foundation was dissolved, his assets frozen. Mariel gave a statement to the press, her voice steady, her face unreadable. She said her husband had been a good man who carried too much pain. As for Eva, her name never made it into the headlines. Her apartment was found empty, save for hundreds of torn letters, all beginning with the same words: "You said love was the light that never fades. But you forgot how it burns." And somewhere beyond the gates of that glittering world of wealth and lies, her story faded, a whisper carried by the wind, a tragedy that no one wanted to claim. When the music stopped that night, the lights went out, not just in the garden, but in Eva's heart. Everything that glittered had turned to ash. She walked into love believing it was her redemption. She walked out of it carrying the weight of truth too heavy to bear. And maybe, in some way, that's what love truly is, a mirror that shows us everything we wish we could hide. Eva's story isn't just about betrayal or heartbreak. It's about illusion. About how we build entire lives around people we think we know, only to realize we've been staring at reflections the whole time. Izaiah wasn't a monster. He was human, flawed, wounded, dangerous in his silence. And that's what makes this story so terrifying. Because anyone, anywhere, can wear that same perfect mask. When you fall in love with someone's light, you rarely stop to ask what their shadow looks like. And by the time you do, it's often too late. Eva's descent wasn't sudden, it was slow, graceful, inevitable. Like watching a candle melt into darkness, knowing it can never burn again. The river didn't just take her life, it took her last piece of faith. In others. In love. In herself. Some say she jumped. Others whisper that he pushed her. But the truth, like everything else between them, drowned that night, carried away by the current, leaving behind nothing but questions and silence. Maybe she found peace beneath the water. Maybe he found guilt in the emptiness that followed. Or maybe both of them simply vanished into the same place where love goes when it dies, somewhere beyond memory, beyond forgiveness. And that's where we'll leave them tonight. Not as villains or victims, but as reminders. That even the most beautiful stories can rot from within. That every secret, no matter how deeply buried, eventually claws its way to the surface. If this story made your heart tighten, if you've ever trusted someone who wasn't what they seemed, remember Eva. Remember how easily truth can become poison when it arrives too late. Because sometimes, love doesn't save you. Sometimes, it leads you straight to the edge. And leaves you there, waiting for a hand that never comes. This was Beyond the Glitter, The Fall of Eva. If you felt something tonight, confusion, heartbreak, maybe even recognition, don't forget to leave your thoughts below. Tell me what you think really happened that night by the river. And if you want more stories that peel back the mask of love, betrayal, and the human heart, subscribe, stay close, and remember. Not every fairy tale ends where the light fades. Some begin in the dark.